One story that I found rather interesting was this story that came out fairly recently from the Wall Street Journal. Now, I haven't had the chance to read this all the way through. I'm actually going to be reacting to a breakdown of this article here. Does Timcast have a segment on this? I might watch a Timcast reaction to this, but this was interesting because this article gained a whole lot of traction. It gained like traction to a level that I think was very, very shocking. Ordinarily, when this sort of article would be released, you would think that people wouldn't be paying as much attention to this. And actually, I was proven right because 6 months ago, the Wall Street Journal basically said the same thing. They put out an article saying how Biden's inner circle worked to keep signs of aging under wraps. And CNN has basically put out the exact same story with a different headline and a cooler picture saying how the White House functioned with a diminished Biden in charge. And all of a sudden people are paying attention to this, but they weren't paying attention to this. Now, part of this is, of course, it's a relatively slow news day. So I'm not entirely surprised, but still, this is not great. We've got this clip here. This is from Timcast IRL. This is them talking about the whole situation of the state of Joe Biden's mental health being hidden from the United States of America. Massive scandal. I think that we should probably see a culling in the United States federal government after Trump becomes office over this alone. Like, there are plenty of bad things that have happened, but I think this honestly takes the cake.
The corporate press is such a thin veneer at this point. You can see through it like there's nothing even there. There's a guy standing in front of you, but we're looking right past him, and we can see Joe Biden has been gone for a long time. And the only reason it wasn't a scandal sooner is because, I got to be honest, I think collectively all the Democrats just know they're lying.
Didn't believe Joe Scott.
And I hate this. I've said this before, but this is why Joe Biden needs to retire. This is Stan Lee levels of elder abuse. That he is even still the president of the United States. I know that Kamala Harris would be a worse president than Joe Biden, but still, you can't be abusing an elderly man just because you don't like the policy of the person who would replace him. Joe Biden shouldn't be president. He needs to be eating ice cream with Nancy Pelosi. Okay, give him some chocolate chip. Okay. For all the people mad about the corporate press lying about Joe Biden's mental decline, and all the people who are mad that Joe Biden even allowed to himself to be put inside of a presidential campaign for a 2024 election, you guys also need to be saying, hey, this guy's donezo in the brains. Like, have him retire, replace him with someone else. And isn't there like some sort of amendment that you could invoke or whatever when you say that, like, you know, this person, his mental faculties have been declined? People were saying that they were going to do the same thing on Trump. Joe Biden very clearly fits the criteria for that. So this dude needs to be replaced.
Barbaro?
Peacefully, by the way, peacefully.
Yeah,
Said he was
like,
the best Biden he's ever.
no, look. I know that Joe Scarborough's a liar. I know that Joe Scarborough knows he's lying.
Yeah.
But I think actually that the average Democrat voter
Yeah.
knows they're lying too. And they're just saying it because they think that's what they're supposed to say.
You think it took up until that?
I disagree. I was watching a stream by Atriarch, and if you're not in the streamer world, you don't watch streamers. It's kind of a world that I observe on YouTube. It's actually kind of what inspired me to start streaming here in this way. Is watching people like Destiny, Hassan, folks like that. But Atriarch was on a stream and he talks about American politics from time to time, and he was talking about how in this debate he literally thought that Joe Biden was completely fine, and he thought that the viral clips of him stumbling over his words or not being able to speak or forgetting things and acting lost and stuff on international stages, that those were all clips that were being selectively edited or presented in order to portray Joe Biden as being worse than he actually was. He thought it was basically fake news from real clips. And then he saw the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and then he realized the truth. So I think that Tim Pool here doesn't understand or appreciate how easy it is to be fooled by the mainstream media. You know, this dude, Atriarch, I think he's the average Democrat. He probably votes blue every time. All of his friends are either liberals or progressives. and he watches CNN and reads the Financial Times. And that's where he gets all of his news. Well, okay, I should probably, give him a little bit more credit than that. But still, this guy is a follower of the mainstream media. That's where he gets all of his information. And that's led him to the conclusion of, up until that debate, Joe Biden was completely fine. And, you can't act like Democrats know more than what CNN or MSNBC is willing to feed them. I think that you give them too much credit for that, unfortunately. I wish I could say that those folks were more informed than that, but I just don't think that's the case.
Knows they're lying too. And they're just saying it because they think that's what they're supposed to say.
You think it took up until that first debate with Trump for them to be like, for the average voter to be like, whoa, this guy is not
Nope.
right? Or do they know beforehand?
I think
Not care.
I think most Democrats knew, and
Nope.
they're all look. Come on, there's this viral video where it's Ted Cruz, and I can't remember who he's talking to, but he asks about men and women's sports, and he's like, "What is the purpose of women's sports?" And she says something like, "Sports are a great way," and he goes, "No. What is the point of women's sports?" And then he pulls up a study. Like a study was done in 2017 that found that women's records, blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait, guys. We as human beings of rational thought do not need scientific studies to tell us men run faster, jump farther, lift more, et cetera, et cetera.
True. Who opens the pickle jars? Who opens the pickle jars? What husband have you ever seen go, honey, can you please come here and open up the pickle jar? Except for a gay husband, of course. You don't see that happen. Right? You know what you do see? You see, grown adult women losing sports to high school boys. That's what you do see. You see mothers unable to chase their male children as they're running across the street. That's what you do see. It's the truth.
These people know this too. These Democrats know. They're all just lying because they think that's what they're supposed to say to adhere to their cult. So that's the same thing with this. When he says, I'm surprised it wasn't a bigger scandal earlier. Well, yeah, you're in a cult, dude. It's a cult.
Yep.
They know the truth. They just won't say it.
Yep. I knew a guy who was in a cult, and they believed that you couldn't die. And then when someone did die, they went through all the mental loopholes of how to explain this away. He must have not been a true believer, all these things.
Proves it.
But this is the same thing. You're in a cult, and all of a sudden this person is dead. We've known Joe Biden's dead. I mean, me personally, for 30 years. Maybe just a few years, but like it's been very obvious.
But obviously right now, I think it's hard for me to say this. We have to draw the distinction between we are saying he is figuratively dead.
Oh, I'm saying literally dead.
No.
This is a clone, but go on.
What I mean is,
I did.
because-
Dude, by the way, I make jokes on the stream all the time. It's helpful, I think, especially when Tim Pool is extremely popular, right? There are people who watch him like a hawk. You've got a lot of people like Media's Touch, Right Wing Watch, multiple other folks. I think maybe Mediaite is watching him at this point. A lot of people watching Tim Pool looking for ways to clip him out of context. When you're making jokes like that, it's completely fine, completely fun. I do that a lot, but I think it's helpful. I love the deadpan delivery, right? I love Norm Macdonald's humor, but it's very helpful if you don't want to be taken out of context. It's important to like maybe laugh, chuckle, say you're joking or whatever. Tim Pool laughs, but someone who is going to view this uncharitably or clip this out of bad faith is probably going to be like, no, he seriously thinks that Joe Biden is dead and replaced with a clone.
hard for me to say this. We have to draw the distinction between we are saying he is figuratively dead.
Oh, I'm saying literally dead.
No.
This is a clone, but go on.
What I mean is, because of the prospect of Joe Biden's old age, that he may be nearing the end of his life, I think it's important to stress we're talking about figuratively is the quote. Because if you said to somebody that Joe Biden has died, they'll be like, well, yeah, I mean, he's gone. But what he's saying is, and again, I have to clarify this because Joe Biden may be not long for this world. I mean, no disrespect.
It's true.
Yeah, it almost makes you feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Because
I'm actually glad that he didn't win the presidency, not because I don't like his policies, but also because it's very plausible that him dropping out of the election probably extended his life by like multiple years if he's going to live for multiple years. I don't think that he would survive the entirety of a second term. I think he would have died 2 years into it. It's too much stress, man. Bro, dude, black don't crack. And we even saw how the presidency aged Barack Obama, okay? So if the presidency can age a black man like Obama in a dramatic way, and just imagine the damage it would do to Joe Biden's mental and physical health. He might end up looking at like Jimmy Carter at the end. Like I'm not even joking.
I lost my dad to brain cancer, and there's no nerve endings in your brain. And so when that's happening, you know, like they're not really aware of it. Like my dad would like, you know, he'd take like a bottle off the ground, and he hadn't smoked in years, and he'd like try to smoke a water bottle, you know, like, and he has no clue what's going on. You feel bad for the guy. He's put in this situation.
Richie, I just a quick question. Who's running the country?
Donald Trump.
That's
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Anthony Blinken, I don't know.
a bunch of bureaucrats. A bunch of bureaucrats is the answer.
It is wild, actually, though, that Donald Trump, like, he has so much pull, and we're going to talk about this later on a different video, but he has so much pull in Congress and stuff that, like, it does almost feel like he is the president of the United States right now. Like, he's speaking with Zelensky and Putin, trying to negotiate a peace talk between the two nations, something that I don't think that Joe Biden has done since he's been president, at least not successfully gaining any progress. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has said that he has secured terms of an agreement with Zelensky, and he's working on that with Putin now, saying that Putin is the one who's in the way of getting peace in that area. It's crazy that Donald Trump is already moving the football on certain policies, and he's not even president yet.
But Trump is actually doing more as not president than Biden's doing as president.
Internationally, internationally countries are responding to Donald Trump as if he's in charge now. They're sure the bureaucracies here in the U.S. haven't started. There hasn't been the changes necessary, and there's likely attempts by the Biden administration to do a little bit of hamstringing, like selling off the wall parts and stuff like that. But for the most part, like the whole country is responding to Donald Trump as if Donald Trump is running the country, because Donald Trump is running the country.
The whole world.
I mean, not literally.
That question. I mean, so if Joe Biden isn't running the country, and there are a bunch of allegedly smart people who are, then I went to the border in 2021, right after Biden got elected. They had contracts on that wall that they literally had already paid out, and people were just sitting in trailers while the wall was just rusting in a lot. And you have to ask yourself, if there are smart people who are making those decisions, like, what is their agenda?
I think one thing is that you can have a group of smart people, but if you've also got the person who's in charge of them, whose wits are relatively dim, there is a limit to how far that intelligence can take you, because you've got, unfortunately, you've got an inferior check to that balance. You have Joe Biden, who is, for all intents and purposes, essentially dying, right? His mental faculties are declining. His physical faculties are declining. He is aging like a grandpa. I believe he actually is a grandpa. So that makes sense. But still, this guy's old. He's essentially dying. And he is in charge of running a country. He has people around him. He's got a cabinet and all of that. And they might make certain decisions that are good. They might have certain ideas. But there are certain things you just can't do without the authorization of the President of the United States. So, tough cookies. If you've got a smart dude in your cabinet who wants to do something that makes the country better, and the president says no. And when you've got a man that's old and senile like that, you can't necessarily be like, oh, I wonder what's the agenda. Yeah, I wonder what the agenda was of trying to smoke that empty water bottle. There was none, right? I wonder what the agenda was of giving weapons to the Taliban in Afghanistan. There was none. So I think that it makes it difficult to analyze the regime of Joe Biden just because you can't really debate the strategy of someone with Alzheimer's, right? It's just not something that can be done. So that has to be taken into consideration when you're doing political analysis in this political era.
Collapse.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any other answer other than that.
The Biden admin is selling off the border wall. They are intentionally
I heard about
sabotaging
that.
this
That's
country.
crazy.
for pennies on the
Yeah,
dollar.
it's intentional at that point. It
That's
has to
crazy.
be.
Well, that's intentional. There might be decisions like that are led by Kamala Harris. I wouldn't be shocked. Wouldn't be shocked. But you can't abdicate responsibility from Joe Biden at the end of the day.
Oh, there's no question. Because they're not making money. If it was like we're at a budget shortfall, let's sell this, they wouldn't just be giving it away. They're ripping apart the material. Trump talked about this in a press conference. He said, "Please, Biden, stop doing this."
This is reminiscent, and like I'm not trying to make allusions to the worst people of the 20th century, but and I'm not saying the Democrats are like the Nazis, but when you have a party that clearly has lost the plot by doubling down on the bad things that they're doing as opposed to doing good things. Like when the Nazis knew that they could either stop killing Jews and hopefully help their position in the war, they doubled down on killing Jews. So that's kind of what Biden is doing. It's like he could stop doing things that hurt the country, but and try and help with the transition, but instead he's decided to double down on doing things that hurt the
His
country.
whole career has been for evil. Like that's why I don't feel sympathy
Bill,
for
yeah.
him, right?
Yeah.
Like he has been a career demon for decades, and I feel no sympathy for him at all. I think it's sad when it's old people outside of this guy, but this guy has look what he just granted clemency.
I don't like this. I don't like this line of thought, this line of thinking. I think that you still have to recognize that there's humanity in people who have political policies that are different than you. Right? I'm not of the persuasion to say that, oh, well, I know that elder abuse isn't great. I know it's pretty bad. It's a crappy thing to do. But Joe Biden's such a bad politician, He's done so much harm to the country. No, dude. No. Elder abuse is bad. End of story. Don't try to justify it by saying, oh, he's been such a bad politician, he's caused so much harm. Bro, stop it. This sort of dialogue is going to get you into the place where you're justifying people doing bad things to your political enemies, which itself is a slippery slope that could eventually lead to supporting violence wholesale against your political enemies, which is not a place that we want to get to. Not saying that's what you support, not even saying that that's what you're trying to do, but I'm saying that is the natural result of this rhetoric that you're pushing right here.
To a judge who was selling
Selling
kids
chicks.
Or the
to
dude with
detention
kitty
centers.
porn. Kitty, sorry. Well, I guess I'm not allowed to say. Well, the dude with the
Right, the Chinese.
yes,
dude.
not tens
Diddler.
of thousands. Yeah, the diddler.
So, and that's either Biden doing it. I don't think it is. I think it's a network of people behind Biden doing these things. But he has had a career of doing this.
Well, there's a big story that there's this Chinese national who had all these images of extreme
Yeah.
Tens
child
of
torture.
thousands.
And 47,000, and he gets commuted. His sentence commuted, and he gets deported along with two others. They say this was part of a prisoner exchange, which will bring back wrongly imprisoned Americans. And my attitude was kind of like, man, I don't know. Let me ask you guys this question: if you were, I'll say this: if I was imprisoned in China, and the federal government said, "Tim, we're gonna get you out," and we have to free this guy to do it, I'd be like, no, I'm staying right here. I don't know. What do you think? Would you I don't know if that trade makes sense. That person is a demon who committed. This is a guy with 47,000 images of child torture. Okay, and I'm saying that it's. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't know, man. I can't speak for the individual who was wrongly imprisoned in China, but if it were me, I'd be like, I am not accepting that.
Well, why do the Chinese want him? Is the question. So, what
seriously.
kind of?
Yo, that's a good question. Xi Jinping, bro, man, we're just not doing a good enough job of torturing these black people and these Uyghurs. We need the diddler. We need the child torturer. We need this man to come home so that we can do our job right as people who oppress and torture and do other terrible things to black people and to Uyghurs. A diddler, return to the homeland. Your motherland is calling.
Kind of compromising information does that guy have on maybe American citizens or something like? Why do the Chinese want this guy with those kind of crimes back when they have a social credit system over there?
But here's the question for you guys: if you were asked You're wrongly imprisoned in insert country. We can free you, but we have to release that guy to do it. Would you be like, yeah, do it.
Not
I'm gonna
this
come
dude.
home, or would you be like, no?
I'm getting out and I'm hunting him down.
You can ask Sam tomorrow because he was in Syrian prison, so maybe he'll have a good answer for
Ooh,
that.
that's a good question.
Thanks for checking out.
All right, nice. Good clip, good clip. The crazy thing to me is how much the media is pretending that this wasn't an issue. And now all of a sudden they're acting like this is like breaking news when this is something that a lot of people on the right knew for a long time. The left lied about it, so a lot of people on the left don't know. But also, even the Wall Street Journal was exposing this months ago, and people were ignoring the story and acting like it didn't even exist. So, yeah, not a big fan of the duplicitous way that Joe Biden's decline is being portrayed. However, I do appreciate the fact that the media is actually acknowledging it for once. So there is a slight W there on that front.